Welcome to Equal Entertainment. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. Drew Barrymore is pausing production on her show until the Writers Guild strike is over. Barrymore says she's listened to everyone's concerns and made the decision to pause the show's premiere. Barrymore received backlash after she announced that the Drew Barrymore show would resume production and without WGA writers contributing. She then released an emotional video days later where she apologized to the writers and explained why she was bringing the show back. That video was later deleted. Bill Maher also says he won't bring back his show Real Time with Bill Maher until the strike is over. Like Barrymore, Maher initially announced he would resume his show. He says he wanted to show support to his studio and crew. But Maher now says since both sides have returned to the bargaining table, he will delay the return of Real Time. The WGA went on strike last May after it couldn't work out a new contract with the major Hollywood studios and streaming services. Actor Ashton Kutcher is stepping away from his role as the chairman of the board of Thorn, the anti-child sex abuse organization he co-founded. Kutcher was criticized for co-writing a letter of support on behalf of Danny Masterson. Masterson was convicted in May of 2 counts of rape and sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. Kutcher and Mila Kunis were among nearly 50 character witnesses to advocate for leniency at sentencing. All 3 co-starred on That 70s Show. Kutcher and Kunis have since apologized. Ryan Seacrest will join a familiar face at the Wheel of Fortune next year, Vanna White. Longtime co-host Vanna White is extending her contract for 2 more years through the 2025 and 2026 season. Longtime host Pat Sajak is retiring at the end of this season. Seacrest will take over next fall. Sajak and White have hosted the show since its debut in 1983. The 2 are the longest-running game show hosts in American TV history. Disneyland is a special place for so many people, and that rings true for the queer community. Disney Gay Days brings together thousands of LGBTQ+ Disney lovers from around the world. And it's coming to Disneyland once again. Co-founder Eddie Shapiro joined me for more on the significance of 25 years of Gay Days. Would you take me back to some of those earliest conversations about why you wanted to found a Gay Days at Disneyland here in Anaheim, California?
Sure. That's a memory that sticks well in my head. I went to Disney World to visit Disney World's Gay Days with a good friend of mine, Jeffrey, as guests. We were there just to enjoy it and see it. And we went and we had a great time. And there were lots of things that we witnessed there. Back in 1998, one of them was the wearing of the red shirts and how that made the park just full of red everywhere. And you could easily identify at a glance, even from afar, who was there for Gay Days and who was community. And it was a completely different feeling than you get in the parks other days. But at the same time, Gay Days Orlando had a lot of parties. That was when circuit parties were especially big. This is the 90s. And they were all over Orlando. There was no sort of sense of community based or centralization. They were scattered all over the place, put on by different producers. And we popped in at some of them, and we found that there were large swaths of people there at Gay Days Orlando who were there for the party and were never planning to set foot in a theme park. Their being there they could just as easily have been in Phoenix for all they cared. They were there just to sort of be at the thing. So we were driving on the 4 freeway, and Jeffrey said, "We should bring this to Disneyland." And I said, "Yeah, but we should do it differently." And we really wanted to make it about Disney and keep as much as possible on Disney property, keep our host hotel a Disney hotel so that it was really community based.
I think there's some folks who go to Disneyland like repeatedly, right? And get all the ears and so I guess I just wonder, how does something like Gay Days Anaheim really kind of dovetail with these folks who are queer and who get to really be, themselves in a community on these few days?
Yeah, no. And thank you for asking that question, because it's been an evolution, as you can imagine, over a 25-year span. When we first started walking through Disneyland, holding the hand of a partner or even somebody who you met the night before was something that you didn't do any other time other than at gay days, right? It was you would be inviting mockery. You would be inviting people to, at minimum, give you the stink eye, and sometimes worse. And that's of course changed over the years. With assimilation, there's a lot more, and you see people being out in the parks every day now. However, I had the experience last year. I live in a bubble. I live in New York City and in West Hollywood. I live in very liberal gay bastions, and lucky me. But last year, I was approached by a youngish woman. I'm going to put her in her early 20s. And she came up to me after the group photo and just said, I have to thank you so much because I went to a local school, a school in Irvine, and we took an annual trip to Disneyland every year, and it always happened to fall over Gay Days weekend. And I was totally in the closet, and I would go on this trip, and I came to realize by attending Gay Days that there was a community waiting for me, and that I was going to have a place when I was ready. And this was her first year being there as an out person, and how much she felt that she had found her people. And that kind of stuff reminds me, even in, with all of the assimilation and all the progress that's been made over this 25-year span, there are still people for whom this is a light. This is a place to find home and community. This is what the Castro used to be, or Chelsea or West Hollywood. This is a place that feels safe. It was always in our minds that we were showing up with our families of choice at America's #1 family destination. We were saying then, and we're saying now, that our families, our communities, our groupings have validity and presence just as much as your family with strollers and what have you. And we're here.
Queer Indigenous artist Nate Lemuel knows the power of visibility, and their work in photography and with the organization Illuminative is extremely powerful. Illuminative amplifies Indigenous voices, stories, and issues to create a more just and equitable world. Nate shares with me that it's time to celebrate the intersections of Indigenous people.
Our communities celebrate every month throughout the year, but particularly for our Indigenous LGBTQ plus and Two-Spirit relatives, it has been that moment for us to weave together pathways and blend the narratives and create a way that honors and celebrates that celebrates all of us entirely. Just sharing a series of photography, having those moments to appreciate one another through those mediums, whether it be through the land, through our families, through our chosen families. All that inspiration was built in me to present something that I wanted to in representation of who I am. And it really was an emotional project for me and very intimate.
You can watch the Advocate channel live by downloading our app in the Apple or Google Play Store. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. For the Advocate channel, I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and thank you for watching.